I still remember the first time I met Nathan's younger brother, Caleb. It was at our wedding, of all places. He had just turned 23 and had flown in from Colorado to be part of Nathan's big day. I remember thinking how different they looked despite being brothers. Nathan was the clean-cut, responsible type, serious eyes, strong jawline, always in control. Caleb had this untamed energy about him, a mischievous grin that made you feel like he was always seconds away from doing something reckless. I smiled politely at him during the reception and didn't think much of it after that. Years went by, and Nathan and I settled into our suburban routine. We'd been married for 5 years. We had no children, by choice at first, and then because time slipped away and careers took priority. Nathan worked long hours as a financial advisor, often staying at the office late or traveling out of state. I had my own business, interior design, mostly remote work from home with the occasional on-site consultation. We were doing fine, or at least I thought so. But somewhere along the way, the spark had dimmed. Our conversations turned into schedules and chores. The intimacy was rare, and when it happened, it felt obligatory, like something we both knew we were supposed to do but didn't quite enjoy anymore. Then, out of the blue, Nathan told me that Caleb would be staying with us for a few weeks. He had gotten a job offer in our city and was in the middle of transitioning from Denver. Just until he finds his own place, Nathan said casually over dinner one night. He's coming next week. I nodded and tried to hide my unease. It wasn't that I disliked Caleb, it was just, our house felt like the last private space I had. But Nathan was excited, and I didn't want to seem like a grump. Caleb arrived on a Wednesday evening. He looked older now, more filled out, the boyish charm matured into something deeper, more grounded. But that glint in his eyes was still there. He carried his duffel bag and guitar, hugged me tightly at the door, and said, "You haven't aged a day, Savannah. Nathan's a lucky man." I laughed it off and led him to the guest room. He unpacked quickly, and before I knew it, he was sitting at the kitchen counter, catching up with me like we were old friends. Nathan didn't get home until after 10 that night, and by then Caleb and I had already fallen into easy conversation. He told me about his travels, his failed relationships, his dreams of becoming a professional musician before reality forced him into tech sales. I listened, intrigued by his honesty. Over the next few days, Caleb settled into our home like he had always been part of it. He helped with dinner, took out the trash without being asked, and played his guitar softly in the evenings. I would pretend to read a book while he played, but really, I just listened to the way his fingers moved along the strings. There was something about the way he played, gentle, soulful, vulnerable, that made me feel things I hadn't felt in years. Nathan remained distant. His work schedule had only gotten worse, and some nights he didn't come home at all, citing last-minute meetings and networking events. Caleb noticed. One evening, we were watching a movie on the couch when he paused it and looked over at me. "Savannah, can I ask you something?" "Sure. Are you happy?" The question hit me harder than I expected. I stared at the paused screen, unsure how to answer. I don't know," I finally whispered. Caleb nodded, as if he understood completely. "You deserve to be," he said. After that, something shifted. It wasn't just casual conversation anymore. There was this unspoken tension between us, like a current flowing beneath the surface. He started brushing against me more often, lingering just a moment too long when our hands touched while passing a plate or reaching for the remote. I found myself dressing differently around the house, nothing too obvious, but enough to feel noticed. Then came the night that changed everything. It was raining hard. Nathan had called to say he wouldn't be home again. Something about a delayed flight and staying overnight in Boston. I had cooked dinner for Caleb and me, nothing fancy, just pasta and garlic bread. We opened a bottle of wine and talked for hours. I felt light, like the version of myself I hadn't seen in years. Somewhere in the middle of a story about a music festival he attended, I laughed so hard I nearly spilled my drink. Caleb reached over, steadying the glass, and then he didn't let go. Our eyes locked. For a long moment, neither of us said anything. You're beautiful, he said softly. Caleb, I began, but the words dissolved as he leaned in. I should have stopped him. I should have pulled away. But instead, I closed the distance. The kiss was slow, almost hesitant at first, and then deeper, more urgent. I felt the weight of everything I'd been suppressing, the loneliness, the longing, the ache for connection, crash over me in a single reckless moment. We didn't go any further that night. I pulled away, breathless, and whispered, "We can't." "I know," he said. "I'm sorry." But we both knew the damage was already done. The following days were filled with avoidance. Caleb kept his distance, and I busied myself with work. When Nathan returned, I acted as if nothing had happened. But I was unraveling inside. Every time Caleb walked into the room, my pulse quickened. Every time our eyes met, the memory of that kiss burned between us. One afternoon, while Nathan was out, Caleb cornered me in the hallway. "We need to talk." I followed him into the garage, where it was quiet. He looked torn, conflicted. "Savannah, I didn't plan any of this. But I can't lie, I have feelings for you. Real ones. I think I always have." My heart pounded. "Caleb, we crossed a line. Nathan's your brother. I'm his wife." He stepped closer. "But are you really his wife anymore? He's barely here. And when he is, it's like you don't exist to him." His words weren't untrue, but I wasn't ready to admit that. "That doesn't make this okay." "I know," he said. "But I also know that something is happening between us. You feel it too." I didn't respond. I couldn't. Because every part of me was screaming yes. Over the next few weeks, the pull between us grew stronger. We tried to stay away from each other, but it was impossible. One night, after Nathan left on another business trip, it happened. I had just gotten out of the shower when I found Caleb waiting in the hallway. "I can't keep pretending," he said, eyes dark with intensity. Neither could I. That night was different from anything I'd known. It wasn't just about lust, it was something deeper, something real. We moved together like we'd known each other forever, like our bodies spoke a language all their own. And afterward, as we lay in silence, the weight of what we'd done settled around us. "This changes everything," I whispered. Caleb nodded. "Then let's not hide anymore." But reality had other plans. The next morning, Nathan returned early, surprising us both. He kissed me on the cheek and thanked Caleb for helping out while he was gone. I felt sick. Caleb avoided my gaze, and I pretended everything was fine. Days turned into weeks. Caleb started looking at apartments. The air between us grew thick with unspoken words. One night, he pulled me aside and said, "I can't stay here anymore. It's killing me." I understood. But my heart ached. He moved out that weekend. Nathan helped him carry boxes into his truck, clueless about the storm beneath the surface.